This compilation of videos about the Hawaiian fires is from a longer video by Max Egan, aka the Crowhouse, published on August 30th, 2023.
Lasers? Really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds.
CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam. Firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Most powerful transportable laser ever created. It can burn through solid steel in just a matter of seconds. They call it the Jehipsel. And Northrop Grumman says it burns at roughly the same temperature as the surface of the sun. Northrop Grumman says they have a transportable laser that could be mounted on a fighter jet, giving it the capability to knock other aircraft out of the sky. What's more, the enemy wouldn't even know what hit him because the 100-kilowatt laser is invisible.
It's not quite Buck Rogers. I don't get the big explosion, but in fact I aim at a soft spot and take away the plane's ability to fly.
So more like a lightsaber, just cutting right through a wind.
More like a lightsaber.
Warfare ethicists agree that it's still easier to use a smart bomb to take out a human target than a laser. But this new technology does stack America's deck against the rest of the world.
Real lasers, one of the key advantages that they provide is that they are invisible. You actually can't see them. You just see this damage suddenly starting to blow something up. So if we take a look now at what the Athena did to a truck. So we're looking at a truck engine, and the Athena within seconds was able to beam right in there, heat the whole thing up, and burn through the engine of this vehicle. So if you can imagine if you were in that vehicle, all of a sudden, this hole would start appearing in your engine, and the whole thing would just disappear. That's what these lasers do. Now, there's some other key advantages that we should mention. Let me give you 3 of them. 1, unlimited ammo. As long as we have power, we have an unlimited magazine. And downrange, of course, having unlimited ammo can be a huge advantage. 2nd, it's silent. We don't give the enemy any advance warning that it's coming. And then the 3rd one I wanted to touch on is that it travels at the speed of light.
Did you know that there are 2 sites in the U.S. that have these directed energy weapons? One is Nevada and the other is Maui. Let's start with this directed energy Air Force Maui optical and supercomputing AMOS site located on the island of Maui. May I quote from the website? Listen to this. Directed energy harnesses the power of the electromagnetic spectrum to enable airmen to effectively and affordably strike critical targets at the speed of light. Question: why Maui? Answer: it's a new smart grid in Hawaii dubbed the, quote, Jump Smart Maui Project.
Not that long ago, Hawaiian government officials in the areas that were just affected by the wildfires passed a law saying that that land could not be redistricted for new building permits unless some sort or some type of a serious natural disaster occurred. Serious natural disaster occurred. And what did we have happen through those 3 districts of very sacred land to the Hawaiians? A very serious natural disaster.
Last January in 2023, there was a Smart City conference in Maui to turn Maui into the Smart City Island, pushing everything electric, making 15-minute smart cities. There was also a contract last year to build a high-rise condo complex and businesses in Lahaina, which is a historic town that couldn't have any new development in this area. But now it's demolished.
People called their insurance companies after the fire, and the insurance companies, for the first time, informed them that there was zoning infractions on their land, so they would not honor their insurance policies. And within 24 hours of these people losing their homes, the same developers who the Hawaiian elders fought in court to have that law passed are already calling these people and making them offers for their homes.
We were told to evacuate by car.
Good luck. Look at this. Holy shit, this is a nightmare. I don't know where he's going, probably to block our street. They're gonna fucking barbecue all these people down in Lahaina. We're all trapped down in here. They're blocking off all exits, and everyone is just stuck, going in a circle in a fire pit.
And they were letting people go in to get burned alive. There were people burning alive in the streets. There were people dead in the water. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people that died. What they're telling you in the news is not true.
And then all of a sudden they said, everybody's off, get off this highway, go down this way, down into town. Then they started blocking everything off there. And
so you got corralled onto
yes,
Front Street. You
yes.
started on Honopilani Highway.
Yes.
And you ended up on Front Street.
Yes, couldn't go anywhere. They just said, go north, go north, go north. And then when we got on Front Street, the embers were coming over the buildings and landing on our vehicles. And we're all in a line trying to get to the end of Front Street to go north, like they told us to, not knowing that the police blocked off the end of Front Street so nobody could move. All of a sudden, nobody could move anywhere. So all I did was try to inch my way over to another yard and drive up through a sidewalk, come back around, and then I went. The cops were moving around one exit, so I ended up getting up on the highway, even though they trying to direct me another way, and then I hightailed it to home.
So you basically had to climb up on sidewalks and go against what the cops were telling you could do. You had to break traffic laws, essentially.
Basically, I was in my truck going to check on some customers' properties, and all of a sudden all the roads were being blocked off right in front of me, and from the cops. And I would go to the next street, and that would be blocked off, and the next one, and they just blocked everything off, forced everybody down on Front Street, in which then the flames were coming over our vehicles, not on our vehicles, but the flames are coming over top of our vehicles.
And what street are you on at this point in time?
Front Street.
You're on Front Street
yes.
itself?
Yep.
So you got directed onto Front Street?
Yep.
Where did you start when you started this journey?
I was going down the highway, and they blocked it off and wouldn't let me go any further.
So you were coming from Laniapoko?
No, I was coming from Waiakuli.
Why? Okay, so you're heading
down the
highway. You're heading south.
And then they stopped us from going up on the bypass. Then they wouldn't let me go past the bypass to the other exits to go up there.
So you couldn't go up the bypass?
No. And then all of a sudden they said, everybody's off, get off this highway, go down this way, down into town. Then they started blocking everything off there, and then you were down on Front Street, and I got all the way down to Safeway. And
so you got corralled onto
yes,
Front Street. You
yes.
started on Honopilani Highway.
Yes.
And you ended up on Front Street.
Yes. Couldn't go anywhere. They just said, go north, go north, go north.
And there was all the cars were lined up, but none of them were moving. And I walked all the way from Safeway to the Chart House. Not one car had moved. And I was wondering what was stopping the traffic. Well, it was a policeman. And I got to the end and I looked up north. There were no obstructions. There was no reason to keep those cars there.
Are you serious?
I'm serious as a heart attack. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm under orders to keep them here. And I said, the fire is is right around Safeway. It's going to hit Front Street. You know, these people got to get out of here. And he said, I'm following orders.
No way.
And so I just kept walking. Well, maybe he knows something I don't, you know. So, and I keep walking down the highway, and I look behind, no cars are coming out. I walked all the way to Waikuli Beach, still no cars coming out. And I started hearing boom, boom, boom. And then I heard people screaming and stuff.
You're saying they were blockaded in by the police at the end of Front Street?
Yeah. So I just kept walking, and I got all the way to, like I said, the Civic Center, and then I started hearing all the explosions, and there was no one walking behind me or on bicycles or anything.
They didn't sound a siren. There was no helicopters that came. People had gone and picked their kids up from school and brought them home and left them home. There was a 10-year-old girl with a crib with a baby in it. There was no warning. No military came. The whole community is mourning the deaths of over 1,500 people.
It's really bad out here. It's really bad. People are finding whole families in cars that are just charcoaled and fried. My best friend Michelle, her brother's family, just in the car. They find the car and they find mom and dad in the front seat and the 3 kids in the back. The other bad thing is that school was out that day that the fire raged through Lahaina. So parents were at work and all the kids were at home. So there's massive amounts of children who perished. We've been taking supplies. No one's been sleeping.
They pulled the water out of the pipes to fight the fires, and then they put the water back in the pipes or from some other source, and now it's toxic.
There seems to be a huge emphasis on ensuring that the media and anyone else can't see what's going on here in Lahaina, West Maui. There are miles and miles of this black fence going up that was not here before, that is obscuring ground zero and making sure no one can see what's going on inside of there from the road. No one can get in there. No one can take any pictures. And then I've also seen these weird foreign police cars showing up, these special police, I'm not sure what to call them. This is a Nissan, but there's quite a large presence of these standing guard around the perimeter. We've also lost our ability to fly drones really anywhere near this area. Now, this 20-second clip here that I tried to get out of my car and show what was going on, I was almost immediately, after these 20 seconds, National Guard came, chased me off, yelled at me, told me to get back in my car and keep moving. So you cannot pull over, you can't even stop your car anywhere near any of this anymore.
The government of Hawaii states their goal is to rebuild and make the entire island of Maui the first smart island. They want the entire island governed by AI, is outlined in the Hawaii Digital Government Summit of 2023 that they plan to host next month on September 25th, 2023 on Maui. Wow.
So they're going to get this land that they're going to develop into millions of dollars worth of property, and the Hawaiian elders are going to get fuck all. They're going to get screwed over. And this happens everywhere. There's too many coincidences for this not to be shady. Wake up.
So do you get the picture, folks? I mean, those clips that I just played you at the start in that little compilation, if you kind of look at that, it tells you the story of what's happening here, how they did it, and what they intend to do with it. And it's all there. I mean, this isn't any conspiracy theory. This is a fully fledged conspiracy to carry out a massacre in the town of Lahaina to kill as many people as possible. They want the casualty high because it serves their purpose to have a lot of people injured. It serves their purpose to have as many people as they can in the kill zone. It serves their purpose to have all of the children killed. It served their purpose completely to have entire families incinerated in their cars, because they don't want people going back to the land. They want to claim the land for themselves. And they want the death toll to be high, because that way it's going to justify what they have to do, and it's going to prove that yes, we need a new management system. Such a scam, folks, and there's so many red flags in this. I mean, it's a massacre. The whole thing was a massacre. It was a literal, because of course actually means burnt offering, and that's exactly what we just saw in Lahaina. Of course, most of the town burnt down, but not the elite houses along the shoreline, and somehow all the small businesses burned down, but of course not Kmart and the big shopping centre. That still remains there now. And you've got to ask the question, folks, when you look at it, and you look at the before and after, and you look where the shopping centre is located and where the fire was, how did the fire manage to jump 430 metres and burn both sides of the town and yet not touch the large shopping centre and everything around there? I mean, it doesn't make sense, folks. This whole thing has been incredibly contrived. So yeah, there's around about 1,500 people very likely dead, maybe more. There's still 2,000, I mean, they say 1,500 people dead, 1,500 casualty, but there is still apparently 2,037 children who have not shown up to school. Missing. Not dead, just missing. There is speculation. Some people are speculating whether the children were stolen during the whole kerfuffle. When the parents send their kids home, somehow the children were stolen. I mean, I don't know. There's people that are going down that pathway. But, you know, there's no way of proving a lot of this sort of stuff. And so you've just got to wonder whether there's any justification to it or not. But the thing is, 2,037 children missing, 183 bodies washed up on the nearby island of Lanai. And that's the thing as well, like the fire was apparently so intense that we saw scenes that I showed you on the last video of where the fire was running across the ground because the wind was blowing it so fiercely that it was literally running across the asphalt and running across the road. And we saw that the fire was so intense and the wind was so intense that the fire actually went out to the bay and burned all the boats in the bay. So again, if it was that intense, how didn't it ignite the area in that 430 metre strip right in the centre of town where the fire was burning on both sides and even out into the bay and running across the grass at a mile a minute? How come it didn't burn these areas? You know, and there's so like he was actually driving down the highway. He was going to inspect one of his client's properties or something, and he got redirected into town by the police. They said, no, don't go down the highway. You've got to go in through town. And then he was funneled down into Front Street because that's where they knew the fire was going to be the worst. And this isn't even a resident of Lahaina. This is a guy who was travelling down the highway and he got redirected into town by the cops. They were sending people in there to be burnt to death. And that one guy said it. He said, hey, they're going to incinerate all these people down here in Lahaina. They're just having us driving around in circles in a fire pit.
They're going to fucking barbecue all these people down in Lahaina. We're all trapped down in here. They're blocking off all exits. And everyone is just stuck. Going in a circle in a fire pit.
And you can see it was a fire pit. It was a perfect circle around the town. What fire burns like that? What fire burns in a perfect circle around the only inhabited area? Crazy stuff, folks. There's some really good reports that came out by a real estate guy as well, who's been showing melted motors and things and melted cars. There's a couple of cars that he found, or one car he found, which is like 2 miles away from the burn zone, and it's in a field by itself of gravel, a little bit of grass around it. You can see there were some small grass fires around, But this car's just melted in the middle of this field of gravel. Well, were they testing out their weaponry or something? I mean, you know, but he's done some good stuff as well, folks. It's a lot of stuff to look at, and you've just got to wonder how much people are going to tolerate. Because this is an act of war. And with the mayor saying he's going to evict people, and they put up a fence around the place, no media coverage, can't even fly drones over it, and you can't go back in to check your land, can't go back in to check for anything. You're just being locked out of the area. You've got to jump through hoops and get permits and all sorts of stuff. You've got to get permits. I think you've got to actually be staying in a FEMA shelter in order to even get some of the food supplies. There was a woman who took some food in there. They had 150 meals that they took in there, but FEMA wouldn't let them in with these meals to help the people because they weren't prepared in a commercial kitchen.
You had a supply truck full of supplies to help the people in these areas. You were not allowed through unless you had a specific contract or permission from a certain agency to come through. And where would you get that permission from? So lots of people are being denied. They're trying to come in with supply trucks to assist. This Hungry Heroes, they were able to get some trucks in yesterday. They were supposed to meet with the mayor and officials. They said they waited around for 5 hours being told to move to different locations, and then they were eventually kicked out and said, why are you even here? And they were trying to coordinate to drop off and deliver supplies. And they can get to the supplies, but there's nowhere to drop them off or give them to anybody because everything is so disorganized. They also brought 150 meals, cooked meals, to help the people who need them. And they were denied because it was not cooked in a commercial kitchen.
I mean, this sort of stuff is ridiculous, folks, and it shows just how much they're controlling the narrative and where they're going to take it. You don't have that many coincidences in a row and not know that this is staged.
So it's just a coincidence that the police chief was the same man in charge of the Las Vegas shooting. And it's just a huge coincidence that property owned by millionaires and billionaires remained untouched while the land of the natives burned only a few feet away, literally. And it's just a huge coincidence that the island had the largest system of outdoor sirens in the world, yet they decided not to sound them or alert anybody in any way. And it's just a huge coincidence that they closed all of the schools, sent all of the children home, and turned off the water as soon as the fires started so that people couldn't put them out. And it's just a coincidence that under orders, policemen blockaded the exits, didn't allow anyone to evacuate, and forced them to jump in the water to save their own lives. And it's just a coincidence that the island is set to be the very first to operate on 100% renewable energy, and to do so, they must significantly decrease their CO2 emissions. And it's just a huge coincidence that 1 month prior to the fires, the mayor issued a press release highlighting his commitment to the United Nations 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. And it's just a coincidence that Hawaii is the only state to have submitted a voluntary local review, which is a framework and goal set to achieve sustainable development. And it's just a huge coincidence that BlackRock and the United States government are 2 out of the 3 largest landowners on the island who have been trying to buy up the land from the natives for the past few decades, who refused to sell, and both of them are part of the renewable energy agenda. And it's just a huge coincidence that the survivors' homes that are still standing are now being evicted. And it's just a coincidence that the fact checkers saying that all of this is a coincidence are owned by BlackRock. At this point, if you believe that all of these are coincidences, you are the crazy one, not me. Google is not going to come out and tell you what's going on, and even if they did, a lot of you wouldn't even believe it unless it was from a government or fact-checking website. But guess what? They're not going to tattle on themselves, so you need to think for yourself. We should be absolutely enraged about these fires. We really need to stand up and do something, because things like this are just going to keep happening.
It's just so obvious, folks. So that's what I'd be doing. I'd be evicting the government, I'd be evicting the police, I'd be evicting FEMA, and I'd be calling this out for what it is. If the media won't report on it, then start your own media and get the word out any way you can. And you need to share these videos. Even that compilation that I created and put at the start, just peel that off. Get a screen capture software and peel off that first 14 or 15 minutes and make it as a standalone video if you want. and share that around with people. I mean, it's all there. You can see the timeline. You can see how they did it. You basically get the whole story of what they did. It's times like these that people really have to step up to the plate, folks. It's just getting ridiculous. It's really getting ridiculous. And if people don't step up to the plate, they will get away with what they're doing.
Okay, if you'd like to listen to the rest of Max Egan's video where he talks a little bit more about this and a few other things as well, I'll leave a link to where you can find it. Cheers for listening.